Hello, everybody. This is Pastor Dave here today, and we're just going to have some good things to share with you. And my special guest today is Dr. Mark Shirley, and he's going to be sharing some great information on health and fuel for our body and how we can live the good life. And I'm excited to hear about this. And Dr. Mark is a family and personal friend of mine. And he's one of the healthiest people I know. He eats healthy, he exercises, he does everything right. But he's a studious man. He pays attention. He's studying all the time about health and about life, especially in the medical field. We're going to talk today about some things that will help you live the good life, especially as Christian people. Prayer is so important. Getting in the Word of God is important. Philippians 4:19 said, "But my God shall supply all of your needs according to His riches and glory by Christ Jesus." But you have to take that and you have to apply that in whatever realm that you're asking God to supply your needs, whether it's financial, mental, emotional, spiritual, and in the physical health realm. God can meet your needs, but it's up to you to maintain that healthy life. So we've got some good things. We're just going to cut right to the chase and have a great time. So Dr. Shirley, take it from here.
Appreciate it, Pastor Dave. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. So today's talk, we're going to center on what I call Nutrition 101, which is really the combination of trying to walk the walk instead of just talking the talk about a healthy lifestyle. So it's not only training, it's not only muscular strength and muscular endurance and flexibility, but it's nutrition as well, with the bottom line of trying to fuel our body with the proper high-grade fuel in order to become a well-tuned machine. If you don't have the thought process or the approach to this, that nutrition has anything to do with ill health and maybe where you're at in life with your lack of fitness, then you really should just turn around and go to the refrigerator and pull out a Twinkie and have a Diet Coke, because nutrition is really where it's at. Six-pack abs are built in the kitchen, and they're fine-tuned in the gymnasium. So with that, I did put together a presentation that I call Fit and Fuel, and I've given this presentation to numerous groups back when I was in the Air Force Reserves up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and currently in the Air National Guard, Nebraska Air National Guard in Lincoln. And I've given this talk to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people over the years. I still need to fine-tune the PowerPoint with a couple of things, but still the meat of the topic is in this, and it still holds true today. So when we talk about Fit and Fuel, really the goal is to put top-grade fuel in a high-performance machine or a high-performance body. Anybody that's spent any time around me over the years in health and fitness and nutrition, especially 40 years in the martial arts, knows that I really am a biomechanical nutball. I really pay attention to mechanics. There's nothing that fascinates me like a good biomechanical analysis of a fine-tuned sports skill. And with that, in order to attain that level, we have to have the proper nutritional approach to that as well. So that's very important. One thing we don't want to look like is this, in the three guys in this picture. So fitness is not this, but it really has 5 different components. So when we talk about fitness, we know there's 5 components of fitness. There's body composition, that's the percent body fat that you have. There's muscular strength, like a 1 repetition maximum bench press. There's muscular endurance, such as you see the F2F, that means fit to fight. That's our physical fitness test in the military that we use. So it's a combination of muscular endurance, push-ups, sit-ups, and then a 1.5 mile run. And then there's flexibility and, of course, cardiovascular endurance. Specificity of training is increasingly important in today's age. So what does that mean? That just means you want to train and eat the manner in which you're going to live your daily life. So if you're an endurance athlete, if you're a swimmer, if you're a triathlete, if you're a martial arts athlete, if you're a MMA competitor, there are certain ways you have to live your life nutritionally and fitness and strength and so forth, and especially your specific sports skill. So given that, we know that there's difference between the marathoner and the sprinter. So when it comes to overall fitness, the marathon runner will always be kind of your real thin rail guy, and even to the point where they've broken down muscle in order to convert that muscle protein into energy that gives you the energy to go through that sport skill. So the guy on the right obviously is your Olympic sprinter, and those guys are pretty well muscled and beefed up. So given that, cardiovascular training, long boring cardio may be a thing of the past. Really high intensity interval training is a good way to go. Maybe 1 minute of intense training followed by 2 minutes of recovery. And there's a lot of different programs out there. You can get on the bike or the exercise treadmill or your elliptical trainer, different programs that are out there, PX90, Insanity, people that do CrossFit. So it's just a matter of combining different facets of fitness into your overall fitness training. So at what point does nutrition come into play? It does from the onset. So when we talk about protein, there's obviously carbohydrates, protein, and fat. Carbohydrates, we abbreviate that as CHO, and protein as PRO, and then fat, of course. So given those things, what's the recommended approach? You could go with the United States government approach through the RDA and see those recommendations. Years ago, there was a food pyramid, I believe, with the previous administration that was in Washington. It became MyPlate through myplate.gov. But again, it basically is the ratio of carbohydrates and proteins and fats and the different recommendations on those. There's a lot of different diets out there. If you were to just Google nutritional approach or nutritional diets, it's like going into Walgreens or Hy-Vee into the pharmacy section and looking for a cold medicine. There's hundreds and hundreds of different types, and which one is best? Well, probably when it comes to a cold medicine, your best form is water. Drinking a lot of water and Tylenol if needed for aches and pains. There's the South Beach diet, there's the Atkins diet, there's the Paleo diet, there's the keto diet or ketogenic diet, and there's the carnivore diet that it is only meat. The approach that I've used over the years, and I've studied a lot of nutritionists over the years, Dr. Stephen Gundry, Dr. Joel Furman, and there's many others out there, Dr. Stephen Murphy, Dr. Mike Campbell. There's a host of them out there that are either MDs, they're DOs, they may be naturopaths, they may be chiropractors with an emphasis in nutrition. It really doesn't matter. There's a lot of information out there, but you just need to find out what approach works best for you. So given that, the approach that I started to follow years ago was kind of the paleo approach, and that just comes from Paleolithic, meaning the caveman approach. And so what does that mean? Well, I don't know if you've ever seen a fat caveman. You probably have not. And given that, it's because, number one, they weren't sedentary. Number two, they were skilled at land navigation, at sprinting, at tree climbing, at gaming their hunt for the day or the week. And it's really not the approach. That has to do with Class 4 dental. I put that in there because it's an Air Force thing. That is directly related to poor nutrition. So given that, nutrition affects everything, and it does affect your teeth as well. So you can tell a lot by people's nutrition by looking at their teeth if they don't have dentures. So, but when it comes to paleo approach, the statement, my very best friend is a nut. So it's meats, veggies, berries, fruits, and nuts. We talked last week when we talked about a nutritional approach of avoiding the coronavirus, or if you get infected with the coronavirus, what's a good nutritional approach to that? So again, a well-rounded approach, but heavy on the greens, nuts, berries, and fruits, and with the side portion Meat should be the side portion of the nutritional approach. So our goal is, as we talked about last week, is avoiding enriched wheat and flour, breads, rice, pasta, and cereals. And I know that's a mainstay of a lot of our diet these days in the Western culture, resulting in less insulin spikes. Remember, we talked about things that we want to avoid. We want to avoid the CIA. You don't want the CIA looking at you. So the CIA, of course, is cortisol, insulin, and alcohol. What are those? Those are three things that will stop fat burning in its tracks and promote fat storage. So cortisol being a stress hormone, if we're constantly under the gun, we worry, we're worrywarts, we just have a negative outlook on life. We surround ourselves with negative people that have a negative impact on our approach and our daily living. Our cortisol is kicked in. It's a stress hormone. Cortisol blocks the body's response to burn fat, and it will result in storing fuel. Insulin. Why is insulin important? Well, if we consume a lot of sugars, a high processed diet, our Western culture diet is built around ease and affordability as well as convenience. Everything's in a box. Everything's frozen. We throw it in a microwave and we go along that route. So when we consume a diet that is high in processed foods, high in processed flour, white flour, and sugar, our body breaks that down quickly. We get a rise in blood sugar. Insulin is kicked out to bring down the blood sugar. Remember what I talked about last week about insulin? Insulin's like the bully at a party. It is secreted by the pancreas. It circles in the blood. It does its job, but it still circles around the party and waiting for more problems. So when insulin is circling around, again, fat burning stops and it promotes fat storage. And the last thing is alcohol. When we drink alcohol, whether it's hard liquor or beer or wine, it doesn't matter. The bottom line is alcohol is ethyl alcohol. It's viewed by the body as a stressor, and it will shut down fat burning in its tracks and promote fat storage. So simply stated, from a paleo standpoint, or even just from a high nutritarian standpoint. So what's a nutritarian? It's not a carnivore. It's not somebody that eats all proteins. It's not a vegetarian. It's a nutrient-dense, nutrient-rich approach to your diet. So given that, you try to avoid processed stuff. So if it has a lid, a label, a can, a container, a covering, it's in the garbage. Now, I say that with reservation. What we don't want to become is a food Nazi. Now, you remember the Seinfeld episode with the soup Nazi? No soup for you. Well, it's kind of like you don't want to become one of those when you're trying to change your nutritional approach about coming home and wiping out the cupboards and clearing out the refrigerator. Make small steps at a time. So don't be a food Nazi. Make small changes at a time. Start low and go slow, just like anything in a fitness program.
Let me ask you a question, Dr. Shirley. Having said all that, what one thing would you tell people that maybe have a sedentary lifestyle? What one thing would you tell them to start doing?
Walking.
Okay.
Sitting has become the new smoking in our society. It's the number one risk factor up there with smoking, kid you not, that leads to a sedentary lifestyle. You look at the change in biomechanics, you look at the change in flexibility, you look at the change in daily habits, the amount of time we sit in front of that computer with this guy, the mouse is the clicker, and we're drilled into this 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 hours a day. Last summer when I was studying for Air War College, that was me. I mean, I really had to have a mindset of having an active lifestyle. Just get up and walk.
Okay, somebody that's 40, 50, 60, 70 years old, they're acclimated to a sedentary lifestyle. What would you recommend, say walking, something attainable, what would you recommend them to start doing?
I'd go out the front door, go up 5 minutes, back 5 minutes.
Okay, folks, that's powerful. I mean, anybody I know in our church or anybody watching this should be able to do what Dr. Shirley just said, 5 minutes one way and 5 minutes back. I was wanting to ask you one other thing. So what one thing, okay, that's one thing you can actually do, an exercise. What one thing would you do, say to a family, where the parents are feeding the family, the kids, and maybe it's a lot of junk. A lot, you know,
Right.
we all know that. We all know it's a lot of junk stuff that's being fed. What one thing would you tell them? I know this is a tough one to cut out.
Bread.
Okay.
Bread.
There you
White
go,
bread.
folks.
Cut back on white bread. If you want a good bread, Ezekiel half sprouted bread is a great approach to bread, but cut out the white bread and cut it out a couple of days a week to start. And then maybe increase a day per week for every week thereafter. I had a nurse one time that I worked with talking about knee pain, arthritic knee pain that she had. And so I started quizzing her on her diet, and she told me the amount of bread that she eats. And I told her, I said, cut it out for 30 days, and you come back in 30 days and you tell me what it does to your knee pain. Within 5 days of her stopping bread, her pain was gone. When she saw me again in 30 days, she had already dropped 10 pounds. Her knee pain was gone. She's more active and out walking more. So again, start low, go slow.
Okay, this is probably some of the most, I would say, revolutionary talk that we've had yet. Everybody can cut back on the bread. Everybody I know can walk 5 minutes. You're going to lose some pounds. We're not talking about dropping 40 pounds in a couple of weeks. I mean, if you can just, I would say not even look at the weight loss, but just cut back on the bread.
Absolutely. And look at your daily function. And as they start to feel better, they're going to want to do more. Go by how your clothes fit. Again, if you get involved in a fitness program and you start weightlifting, weight obviously weighs more than muscle, or weight weighs more than fat. So as you start to burn fat and put on muscle, your weight may not change, but your body composition changes. Your percent fat decreases, your percent muscle increases. Muscle is what burns fat. You're more of a fat-burning machine, and you're overall healthier.
Well, you're going to look better. You're going to feel better.
Absolutely.
And you'll get more done if you're, we can talk about being Christians all we want, but you'll get more done for the Lord if your body is able to do more. You'll have more energy. You'll get more done. And I think this is just, this is really awesome that we're getting this kind of information out there. Okay, Don.
Thank you. The number one culprit is sugar. It is an absolute addiction in our Western culture. You look at the amount of labels that you read. Read labels. So look at the amount of sugar that's in the processed food that you eat. And you look at, so the sugar comes in several forms. The fruit form, natural form, is fructose. Sucrose is table sugar. Dextrose is another form. So those things you'll see written on your label. The grams of sugar that you eat on a daily basis. I mean, if you look, even in the breads, because these carbohydrates that we eat are broken down quickly. The simple carbs that we eat are broken down quickly into sugar, the bloodstream. And again, insulin is kicked out to bring the blood sugar down. But again, if it's not a lot of sugar in your diet, that will result in a lower overall insulin level, which helps in the long run. So we no doubt have an addiction to sugar in our society. This high fructose corn syrup, I talked about it last week, that's in a lot of your sodas, in a lot of your processed foods, a lot of your snacks, a lot of your fruit drinks. High fructose corn syrup, and again, it was formulated back in the 1980s. You won't find that substance anywhere in its natural state in nature. It doesn't exist. And government got smart about 1.5 years ago and changed the name on the labels from a high fructose corn syrup. It's now labeled as corn syrup. It's the same thing. And it will kick your blood sugar up faster than anything out there. And it's in most of our processed foods. So when we look at carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, we want to decrease the amount of carbs overall that we eat. So what would you avoid? Whole wheat bread, whole grain pasta, whole grain crackers, and cereals. People say, well, I thought whole wheat and whole grain was good for you. Well, it was 50 to 100 years ago. But once whole grain became processed in our culture like everything else is processed, it's very processed and it's broken down quickly into simple carbs, which increases the insulin and
you just can't lose weight without cutting back.
Very tough to do, absolutely, very tough to do. The carbohydrates that help fat burning, sprouted grain bread, as I said, Ezekiel bran is one brand, brown rice, spelt millet, sweet potatoes over the white potatoes. Sweet potatoes, you don't get the insulin response that you do, and then of course all fruits and veggies. And of course there are some fruits that have more sugar in them than others, and that you can do a quick Google search on those, and they're out there. The processed foods to avoid, your artificial sweeteners, high fructose corn syrup like we've spoken, hydrogenated oils. 20, 30 years ago, the bad boy in the culture was cholesterol. Cholesterol was reduced in a lot of our foods, so everything then was low cholesterol. Then it became low fat. So it was low cholesterol, low fat. And then it became low saturated fat. So then the bad boy was low cholesterol, low fat, low saturated fat. Then the new bad boy on the block was your trans fats. Now everything is low fat, low cholesterol, low saturated fat, and now low trans fats. What's the new bad boy on the block that everybody talks about in nutrition? Gluten. Gluten is the new bad boy on the block. So now everything is gluten-free because everybody in our society is gluten sensitive. I don't buy it. You know what they're sensitive to? That's a toxic response to chronic processed foods.
Wow. That's powerful.
When they started to process white flour at the turn of the 20th century, again, I talked last week about our illnesses in our society that increased exponentially: heart disease, heart attacks, high blood pressure, strokes, diabetes. It went through the roof. And they went through the roof as things became processed overall. Well, all of a sudden now, how is it now all of a sudden that everybody in our society is gluten sensitive? No gluten, gluten this, gluten, 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 gluten. It'll be the bad boy on the block until the next bad boy on the block comes around. I'll give it maybe another 3 to 5 years, and then there will be somebody new on the block that has replaced gluten, and it's the new bad boy that we can totally switch our approach to nutrition on and make everything blah, blah, blah free, whatever that new blah, blah, blah is, I'm not sure. But what we feel as a gluten sensitivity is really nothing more than a toxic response to chronic processed foods in our Western culture diet.
Too many processed foods.
Absolutely.
Comfort food, drive-through, tight schedules. They
make you feel good.
Yeah.
They do. They make you feel good. Yeah. And so you look at a lot of it is our culture in general, that, it's McDonald's on the go. It's everything's drive-through, but you can make good choices on eating out and eating drive-through food. You got to have the good choices.
The big point, I think, is to start. Just do something that you can register, that you can keep track of, that you're doing something to get your health back. You can pray about it. The other side of that, if you get prayed for on Sunday, you're going to have to eat healthier on Monday. So we want to make sure that you're doing your part. I know God does His part. Many of you have observed healing miracles, but God wants you to do your part to stay healthy as well.
When it comes to this nutritional approach, again, it's incorporating the entire biopsychosocial wheel that we talk about in medicine all the time. Being of sound mind, sound body, be grounded spiritually. You have your higher power, whether it's Jesus Christ, whether it's another higher power that you aspirate to every day, and get on your hands and knees and get some yoga done. Pray if that works for you. It works for me. Obviously, Pastor Dave, it works for his congregation and millions of other people in this world. But you got your temple, is your body. and you have one chance of this on earth, so you might as well feed it right, treat it right with the proper diet, nutrition, and exercise. And then when it comes talking about bad fats, hydrogenated oils, we try to avoid those. Canola oil, margarine, and your substitute butters. So all those are bad fats that do not help in fat burning. Again, fats to help burn fat, real butter, coconut oil, olive oil, avocados are huge. And then a handful of raw nuts daily, whether it's almonds, walnuts, macadamia nuts, those are important as well. So when it comes time to talk about condiments, because we always like to put stuff on our food. So your top 5 worst condiments, why are these the worst condiments? Number 1, sugar content. Number 2, hydrogenated and processed oils. And number 3, saturated and trans fat content. Ketchup, top of the list. Ketchup is so good, but it is so unhealthy for you. But again, a little bit, not bad. A boatload of squirt with the fries, you need to rethink your nutritional approach. Barbecue sauce, same thing, sugar content. Tartar sauce, same thing, fat content. Mayonnaise, and then of course many salad dressings. But again, you can make good choices out there. They now make salad dressings and mayonnaise with extra virgin olive oil, and there's good chances to make on that. So 5 of your best condiments. Mustard, top of the list, because it has turmeric. Turmeric is one of your most powerful antioxidants out there, one of your most powerful anti-cancer fighting, cancer-causing agents that are out there, so turmeric is huge. So mustard, top of the list. Guacamole, it's just great fat. It's good fat that helps burn fat. Salsa, who doesn't like salsa?
Yeah. Even
Seinfeld loves saying salsa. Anyway, that was one of my best episodes. So, hummus. What is hummus? Chickpeas, ground up chickpeas. It's great protein in there, and of course, pesto is very, very healthy as well. Unhealthiest foods: corn, soy, and wheat. Let's go back to the early 1930s. There was a AAA, the AAA, the Agricultural Advancement Act. I believe it was FDR, President FDR, that enacted that. But anyhow, that was a government mandate for farmers to produce more corn, soy, and wheat. So within 5 to 10 years, there was such an abundance of corn, soy, and wheat that it became the 3 top things that were in our nutritional approach. So again, processed corn is actually a grain, so it's not technically not a vegetable. So our body processes that differently. And then wheat, of course, has become very processed. When it comes to looking at our entire culture, we know that 70% of our country is obese. 70%. Obesity is now in the ICD-10 list as a disease. It's at the top of the list. It's the number 1 thing that leads to diabetes and high blood pressure and heart disease and many forms of cancer. So again, fat is not the problem. The underlying problem is sugar. Again, we want high performance body, but you don't want to put junk fuel in it. So really coming down to that biopsychosocial model is extremely important. Protein carbohydrate mix. What's your best post-workout drink? About the healthiest thing out there is chocolate milk, because chocolate milk has about the 3-to-1 carbohydrate protein mix, and it's just great fuel for the body. And again, a golden time frame to consume that within your workout, when your workout is done, is anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours, in order for the liver to take that up and make new fuel for the liver, which is glycogen. So it's real important. So I know I've touched on a lot of different topics with this, but really changing your approach to how you view nutrition is extremely important. You got to look at it from the standpoint, it should be top of the list as far as your approach to overall fitness. Again, 6-pack abs, they're made in the kitchen, not really on the treadmill and not out on the concrete hitting the pavement. So should you get more time on the treadmill and on the bike? Yeah, but that shouldn't be your number 1 approach. Your number 1 approach should be looking at your nutrition first.
Well, you're not gonna work hard and get healthy unless you eat right.
Absolutely.
And I hear a lot of people say, I just need to work out more, I can drop the weight and get in shape. But unless you eat healthy, you're still feeding your body the wrong stuff. And you work yourself silly, but it's not going to work for you. This has been so informative, and I pray that you'll take this and use it and work with it. And we're going to continue this next week. Be sure to get all you can out of this, take some notes, break it down into segments. You can stop it online and pick it up later. But we're so glad you joined us today, and I pray that you'll just grab a hold of this and run with it. God bless you. We're looking forward to seeing you tomorrow in church, drive-in church and inside church. We'll be here at 10:30, and looking forward to having a great time tomorrow. So be blessed. Have a wonderful day. Thank you, Dr. Shirley.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure to have you here today.
Absolutely. Next week, we're going to talk about sugar cravings. It's going to be huge.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
huge.
Live streaming of this broadcast is made possible from givers like you. Each time you sow a seed, you are helping us to keep spreading the Word of God around the world. If you would like to give a financial gift, you can use one of the giving options listed on your screen. Remember to click the share button to help us reach more people. Thank you again for sowing into this ministry. And remember, with Jesus, we always